It is a very important year. It's actually a very important time in America. I know that's why so many of you guys are in this room. And it's really so important, and this mission of Blexit is so close to my heart because there's something that's gone very, very wrong in this country, particularly in the Black community. Can we agree on that? When we made the video that you just watched, I wanted images to be put together of the Black community that I grew up with. What I mean when I say that is that, you know, I was a 90s child growing up in the 90s. I always call that the golden decade, right? Liberals weren't crazy yet. People seemed to be getting along, and I remember such positive TV. I talk about that all the time, such positive TV for Black America. So when I was growing up, I was watching the Huxtables, the Jeffersons at Nick at Night, right, staying up late, the Cosbys. They were just wonderful images on TV of what it meant to be not just a Black American, but an American, to have goals, to have your family be together. You know, they'd have their issues throughout the episode, and then every episode would end with the moral of togetherness. And then I don't know what happened, but then sometime over the next couple of decades, that kind of TV left. And it was replaced with something else. It was replaced with violence. For Black America, I believe the most popular TV show that's on right now is Love and Hip Hop, right? The breakdown of people trying to aspire to make it as rappers, people that come from strippers, you know, being strippers and trying to make it in the music industry. And I wanted to ask myself a question of how did that happen? Who is trying to realign our goals as citizens? Who's trying to make us think that as minority Americans, we should be aspiring to be ballers and rappers and not lawyers and doctors like they were when we watched TV, right? So the Blexit mission became very close to my heart, and I said, I don't think America will ever be fixed if we don't wake up minority America, if we don't get Hispanic Americans and Black Americans to wake up to what's going on. And the only way we're going to do that is through education. The pushback that I got instantly was that people feel that today it is harder, believe it or not, it is harder to be a Black American today than it was 60 years ago. I find that to be completely insulting to the people that lived 60 years ago as Black Americans. The idea today that's being sold to us throughout the media is that we are being held back because of slavery. I find that to be completely ridiculous. I've said this 1,000 times. I've never been a slave, and I'm not going to start being one to appease to liberal orthodoxy. But then I started studying, and I said, okay, well, what was slavery, right? What were the tenets of slavery? And this is important, so I want you to pay attention, because I believe the left has played a trick, and they've done a very good job at doing it. I was reading Frederick Douglass's Autobiography, and in the first couple of pages, he talks about his life as a slave, and he talks about how when his mother died and when his sisters died, he didn't feel anything. He felt nothing. There was no attachment because part of being a slave meant that you were constantly being traded, right? You weren't with your family forever. That was the idea, and that was twofold. One is because they wanted the best slaves, and that was just a business model. And the other part was that they actually didn't want Black Americans to have a sense of family, to have a sense of togetherness. You know, they wanted to keep them working like machines. So the breakdown of family was necessary. A second attribute of slavery, which we all know very well, was illiteracy. It was illegal for slaves to learn how to read. It was so illegal, in fact, that if you were a white American and you were teaching slaves to read, you could be prosecuted. That's how serious it was. The reason for that is obvious. An educated mind can't be enslaved, right? If slaves were reading, they may have picked up on the abolitionist movement that was happening in the North, right? They may have found out that there were people that were actively working to free them, so they had to make sure that they were not allowed to read. What's interesting about that is we're all of these years past slavery, and we're in the exact same predicament. The Black family is still broken down, right? But slavery doesn't exist. In the 1960s, the single motherhood rate was 23%. Today, it's 74%. 74% of Black Americans are growing up without a two-parent home, without a father in the home. And Larry Elder will talk to you more about that because he really is an expert. Illiteracy. Well, you'd say, oh, well, we've been put into schools. Well, what is our public school system teaching us these days when 70% of Black boys in California can't pass a basic literacy exam? When in inner cities like Baltimore, they looked across 5 public schools and couldn't find a single child that was proficient in reading or writing, right? This is happening right in front of our faces and nobody's talking about it. There isn't a single politician on stage that's talking about illiteracy rates, right? Well, that's because an uneducated mind, if you don't know your facts, it's very easy to enslave you. They'll use images, they'll use culture, right? They'll tell you, they'll make you feel like something is going on when it's not, hence Black Lives Matter, right? This idea that we're all under attack from police officers. No, we're under attack by a really shoddy public school system is what we're under attack by, you know? And then you think about how is it possible that we got here and no one's talking about it? How is it possible that I start talking about it and everybody starts freaking out? Like it was this big secret that this was all going on and nobody was ever supposed to know. And that's simply marketing. Marketing 101. I think if you have to take your hat off and say something that the left and the liberals have done brilliantly, it's marketing. It is, they have a way of marketing things to us and they sound amazing even if they're horrible. Like pro-life, that sounds amazing. I mean, I'm saying that you're pro-choice, right? Pro-choice sounds amazing. I want you to have choices. I want choices. They're just leaving out the fact that that means that they're murdering babies, right? That 17 million Black babies have been aborted since 1973. I think that number is at 19 million as I say on the stage today. And that the Black population has stagnated. There's no more Black population growth in America. It's completely flatlined, right? Nobody's talking about that. They're talking about ushering illegals over the border because illegal will be the new Black soon. They're not going to need Black people anymore because they have a new market of victims that they can go after and get addicted to government dependency. Why is no one talking about that, right? There are so many ways that the left has taught us to oppress ourselves. My belief is that minorities that are oppressed in this country are oppressed by ourselves, by our mindset, by our belief that we've bought into that we're victims and that we can't get ahead. And here's the truth. If you believe that you can't, you won't. It's that simple.